And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it. And that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, Randy. Randy, thanks for coming on here and talking with me.
Thank you, Brandon.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself before we get started?
I practice energy medicine, let's say. What that involves is what's called Chinese energetic medicine. But I'm also Native American, and so I learned Native American medicine first, and then Western medicine, and then Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine. So basically, for about 50 or 60 years, that's what I've been doing with myself. And of course, sometimes we have to take 2 or 3 jobs to support our studies and interest. And so I've had a pretty busy time with it, I think, just like everybody else. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, what led you down this path to get into this?
Nightmares. You know, when you're a kid and you're having horrible nightmares, and there's basically nobody that can relate to them. And I became very curious about why I would experience a world that other people couldn't and didn't. And so it led me into a study of what's called arcane arts, esoteric arts, all kinds of stuff, looking for some answer to why I was going through all that. And basically trying to learn to help myself. And in the course of that, I learned that I could help other people too. So.
Kind of why I do what I do is to help people. I know it's a weird way of saying it, but like I give people a place to talk about some things that they're not normally able to talk to the average person about. So I feel like I'm trying to help, if that makes any sort of sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, just like me when I was young. I mean, in 1957, who are you going to talk about? Demons and entities and spirit attachments and astral travel and just on and on and on.
Right.
Throw in ET there while you're at it. You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
even in today's world that we live in, if you go to the average person and start talking about stuff like that, they're still going to have that stigma against the people that say stuff about it, because you're going to be labeled as probably like a crazy person, because that seems to be what people relate all this stuff to for some reason. I think there's a little bit more openness to certain aspects to it, but not everyone is fully open to the concept.
it's true. It's not generally what we call dinner conversation. It tends to make people want to examine things that they try to avoid. And I think rightly so, that, you know, we call it the dark side.
Yeah.
You know, but when you really start looking at it, it's definitely an area of study, something to talk about. And of course, the other side of it is it doesn't follow the scientific model or method. And so you eliminate the doctors and the logicians and people that are rational because they don't consider any of this rational. And yet, it's common to all humans and all human experiences and cultures all across the planet. And of course, in the 50s and 60s, you were labeled, I don't know, they'd call you all kinds of names
Mm-hmm.
because they did with me. Because you're not supposed to be intuitive. You're not supposed to know the future. You're not supposed to be able to know things that other people don't. And boy, they'll stigmatize you for that. And in some cases, become pretty egregious about it. So anyway, I studied it anyway because, like I said, very selfishly trying to help myself and found in the process I could help other people. And that's what I do. So it's been an interesting trip.
What were some of the things that you experienced when you were younger before you got understanding like what you're doing now? Like what were some of the things that you had to go through?
Well, I was seeing things other people weren't. Very simple. Um, and, when you do that, of course, we call them visions and drug trips and I don't know what all now, but back then there was nobody to talk to, I can guarantee you, except that I grew up in a Native American community. And among my cousins and uncles and stuff, what I was seeing and doing wasn't outrageous or outlandish. And so in Native American culture, things that I wanted to talk about were things that could be talked about. But the white culture I grew up in, they didn't want anything to do with it and still don't for the most part. And so that's all changing. Now people are really enamored. They don't call it the occult anymore. The old language is esoteric as opposed to exoteric language. But I was able to start learning things, and that gets into an idea I had about tonight's conversation is, how you learn things in Native American cultures a lot different compared to how you learn things in traditional schools and studies. So that's how it transpired and opened up. I was encouraged that I could talk around my family, but not so much around my friends and people in school. So
Yeah, I feel like with the Native American like upbringing and everything, that is different from what most people would be learning and going through too. So I feel I don't know how to say it without saying white people, but like the general way of like a white person's upbringing, or we go to school, this and that. We're not as spiritual involvement as in with the earth as like some of the Native Americans have been.
yes, we were. Let's see if I can get this right. To talk to plants and talk to animals wasn't considered crazy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now we have, dog whisperers and all this kind of stuff, but, it's pretty fascinating. I grew up like where we would go fishing and my dad would catch, say, 100 fish, and people either side of him or across the river weren't catching any. And, the standard joke is, well, Native Americans go where the fish are. Native American, and I've explained this to people I've trained. Some people who did some special forces training with me that, you go where the deer are. You go where the target is, or whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that takes knowingness as opposed to rational thinking. And so it's a different world, and it's very much obvious if you get out in Arizona, New Mexico. that the world operates differently out there and on different reservations in Oklahoma and places. I kind of grew up in both. But one of the interesting things to me was that I would hear people talking about health issues or pain. I was like 11 years old, and just intuitively I go, let me help you with that. And so I didn't have any kind of what we call formal training. It's just something that I intuitively knew that I had some knowledge or ability to deal with. And so I started practicing. By the time I was in high school, I'd have people come to me, teachers, students, and I would energetically try to help them psychically, mentally, whatever language you want to use. And the more I did that, the more I wanted to know about it. So that became a path forward, and something to learn and kind of devote yourself stuff to.
You have been doing this for how many years now?
Well, since 1958, I was 8 years old.
Now,
I'm
that
76 right now, so quite a while, put it that way.
what are some of the things that you've encountered and you've had to help people with? Like, what's some of the things that like stick out the most that you've had to help with?
Oh, it's people are basically, and majority of people out there in the world are not themselves, and if it's kind of like having a house, and if you're the only person in the house, well, it's your house, and if there's other people there, well, we call that a shared space. And if there's entities, spirit attachments, demons, witches, curses, spells, it goes on forever. Then we have a shared house where we're not exactly in control of ourselves. And that can vary all the way from schizophrenia to manifest as illnesses or psychosis and a dozen other things in modern language. So I've encountered all that. Everything from, um, I guess the best way to explain it is I get a whole lot of people that come to me that Western medicine has failed. Okay, that they can't answer what's going on with them. And so as a process of, we'll call it intuition, I call it interrogating the field of consciousness. All information is available. It just takes someone practicing it. I kind of introduced the concept on Gaia when I did that quantum effects series, where I talked about some of this.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I talked about it, because I wanted to kind of get it out into the general public, that these are things to know. And, you talk about like things I've seen. Golly, I've had thousands, tens of thousands of clients, so it's hard to focus on any one of them. I will focus on the training a little bit, since people don't think of or can't imagine that this kind of knowledge comes through a classroom. So to be able to talk to people and spirits and all that kind of stuff, like in New Mexico with the Navajo and the Hopi and Zuni, they have a vast galaxy of people, places, things, gods, everything in the world that they talk to, and that they gain knowledge from. And so that direct interaction that produces knowledge or training, it just doesn't occur to most people as something that could be attained or achieved. And I'll give you a couple examples of that. Is to be a Native American or to be a medicine man is real simple. You die first and come back. If you don't come back, then well, the problem's resolved. You're not going to be a medicine man except in the tribe. So that was a prerequisite. I laugh at people that say I'm a medicine man. Just so you know, I've died several times and I'm still here. I've come back. So I kind of passed that test. But during the process, you become more acquainted with zero reality, with the reality of spirit world, I guess we'll call it, the world of thought and imagination, and superstition and grand tales, we'll call it. As an example of that, I was at Pohaki, which is a small town north of Santa Fe. And I'm driving along, and it occurs to me to pull into this restaurant. Well, it was just now opening. It was in one of the casinos there. And I go in, and they bring me water, and I'm the only person in this giant restaurant because it hasn't opened yet. And White Cloud was a being that came in the door and came to my table and sat down with me. Now, science or the mystical community wants to call that a plasma being. In other words, it's a ghostie that has some substance to it. So, so we talked about an hour and a half. I had no knowledge of the time passing until he went away, and then all of a sudden the restaurant just immediately filled up. So we were holding space and time kind of away from everybody. So that's an example. White Cloud died in 1830 something, by the way. And then another instance, I used to go do construction all over. I was in Texas, and I'd rented a hotel, several hotel rooms for my employees. And in Native American culture, they kind of pass you around to different teachers. I was laying there one night, and this White Mountain Apache medicine man showed up in my room. Remember, they're plasma beings. You can see them. Somewhere I even have a picture I drew of him, because he had two snakes in his hand, and he like fanged his cheeks and his arms, and it's dark, but I made that drawing, and the next morning I could see that drawing, see his medicine pouch and kind of different things about him that I'd drawn in. And he scared the heck out of me, so I'd tell him, you have to stand at the foot of the bed, you know, to talk to me. And, over the course of several evenings, we have conversations where knowledge is shared. And then the funny part, from Native American humor standpoint, is I was late getting back to the job and the hotel, and one of my employees had decided that had come in and came to my room and slept in my bed. And when I came in at midnight, 1 o'clock, I go, what's going on? Because everybody was awake. And they said, well, so-and-so got up in the middle of the night and took off out the door. And I said, oh, he probably had a visitor. To this day, I've never found that man. I owed him a final check and everything. He literally packed his stuff and drove off in the middle of the night, because a lot of those experiences are very scary to people that are not used to them. I go to Florida, and I had a friend there, and his dad or his mother was the last Nanacoke Indian medicine woman. And her husband would come in while I was sleeping and talk to me. He'd stand at the foot of the bed. But what was interesting, my friend come in the next morning, goes, did you have any visitors last night? They thought that was funny. That's Indian humor, by the way. So people don't think about that I could learn from the spirit world, that I could learn from a field of knowledge that requires you to be open to it and pretty much non-judgmental. Scares the hell out of most people, though. And the outcome of all that was that New Mexico has a lot of haunted houses and places, spirits that didn't go on. So for several years, I had a pretty good business of clearing the ghosts out of houses. People would call me from all over, and I would go in there, and it only took a few minutes, but I got paid very well. So it's generally not an occupation you can put on your resume, by the way. So,
Right.
Again, people are not quite accepting of it. So we learned from plants by learning to listen to them, not talk to them. You learn to listen to animals. You can learn to talk to them through mimicry. And if you get really good at mimicking animals, and most Native Americans that are raised on the reservation are very good at it, you eventually into a period or level of dialogue. And that's really where all the action occurs. It's not just to have a dream, it's to be able to dialogue in that dream. It's not to touch another consciousness, but to be able to dialogue with it, to find out what they know and share what you know. If I wanted to relate it all in normal terms, I'd say read Colin Wilson, The Outsider, published in the 50s, I think was the original version. Read Secret Life of Plants, Peter Tompkins and Marcel Vogel. I studied with Marcel Vogel for about 3 years when that book came out. And all of them are dealing with the fact that there's levels of interaction and information that are basically not taught in our school system. The Eagle's Gift by Constanata, same thing. You're going to encounter a world that people have encountered, but they kind of reluctant to talk about it. So that's been the way I found out.
People, from what I've experienced with just from doing this show, I feel like people want to talk about things. They just don't feel like they can. And a lot of people have these questions and experiences and everything else. They don't understand it. And there's not very many people that they can turn to and talk to about it or even get answers, which I think the reason we all listen to these types of shows is because someone's got questions, they want to hear answers. But the truth of the matter is there's more questions than answers half the time for a lot of people. So if someone were curious about things, and I know you say you try and help with people, what are some of the things that they could possibly do to try and figure things out on their own? Or is that something that not everyone's able to do?
People say, what do? I work on a person to be 100% themselves. That means empty of all other inputs, programs, negative experiences, connections, entities, spirit attachments, demons, whatever, angels. I don't care what all you want to throw in there, because like you say, it's pretty infinite what all is in what I call zero reality, the reality of that which is non-physical. And the thing I tell people is you lose yourself by the time you're about 6 or 7 years old because of programming. And generally, you have to wait until you're in your 30s or 40s before you can kind of come back to yourself. Like you have children, and after they're gone, you're going to go, maybe I have a little time. I could pay attention to myself now. The primary thing I start people on is a very simple exercise. You set yourself down on the floor before you go to bed. Your back's to the wall, the sacral area, the middle of the back, and the back of the head all touch the wall. It's very unnatural. It requires you to sit very straight. And you close your eyes and take a deep breath and go, I got up this morning and I did this and went here and I ate breakfast and blah, 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 blah. And you'll run out of breath. So you take another deep breath and go, now it's 10 o'clock and I did this and this and this. And you keep going till you can say, And now I'm sitting in my room and I take a deep breath and go, I made it. In other words, you made it through the day. So what you're doing is acknowledging everything that went on without judgment. We're just coming through it as fast as we can. If we do that, we don't retain it into our sleep periods and then need to process it through our subconscious or unconscious. The other thing that happens is after you say, I made it, we go, thank you, because it's hard to find people to pat us on the back anymore, especially as we get older. And then, so you say, like you would say, thank you, Brandon, thank you. And there's reasons for the reciprocal of that. And anyway, you're trying to get to that 2 or 3 minutes at the end of that meditation. I teach all meditations is just to get to the end of it. Because once you've done this breathing exercise and meditation, now you have the opportunity to either let knowledge come to you, or you are able to kind of like quiz the universe a little bit. You can look for answers. So that's the easiest way to start. It gets progressively worse on those exercises, meaning there's more things to do. There's hand positions and all kinds of stuff that called mudras. So it just depends on how involved you want to get, and you can learn that through yoga and meditation and the internet now. The other thing I teach is that people should start with sun salutations, and you can find them on the internet. And all that is reconnect you to your body and get you out of your head. And then the sitting exercises get you out of your head so you can go to sleep at night and actually rest. You'll end up being yourself more than if you didn't do these things. So that's kind of like how I start everybody.
I think for me, I would be kind of afraid to try and do things on my own just because I'd be leery of doing something wrong. And I know sometimes when you're doing things, people have a tendency to, let's just say they're trying to rid themselves of something. Or
yes.
And
yes.
They might not know what they're doing and they're actually bringing more in. You know what I mean? So you're opening up a doorway, like a portal or some sort of a connection to something, and you're trying to get rid of certain things, but you're bringing in other things, and then it becomes something that's even worse than what it was from the get-go. So in my mind, I'm maybe just a paranoid lunatic. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to try and do something and make things worse.
Yeah. Things were so bad that being a paranoid lunatic at 8 years old was I had to try something. The interesting thing, I grew up in a very small town, Oklahoma, and you can imagine in the early 60s, somehow there appeared a book called Psychic Self-Defense by Dion Fortune. And that book was, oh my gosh, it acknowledged that there's stuff going on. There's things out there. And the premise of the book is you need to protect yourself. And I agreed. And so over the years, I've studied and taught Kundalini Yoga for about 40-some years, studied martial arts and esoteric martial arts. And all of them eventually end up with some form of need to protect your own consciousness and your own energy field. And like I say, you have to work at it to find the knowledge and find people to teach it, because it requires a certain level of mentorship, not just teaching. And so like when I work on people, I reset them to get rid of all these connections. And as an example, like even a physical scar is just a memory. It's a memory set. And it's one you energize. And well, how about emotional scars or mental scars or psychic scars? And if you talk about psychic scars, well, let's talk about PTSD. That's a psychic scar. And if you drop out the energy that's maintaining or energizing that memory, then it no longer exists. We have that natural capacity to do that. It's just that we don't learn it as a technique, and we don't apply it on a daily or weekly business. It's like, hey, we're going to do something Saturday. No, I'm clearing myself out. I'm building up my energy field to kind of protect myself and my space or my house or my family. And those are legitimate things that, to me, should be taught or should be learned, should be pursued as a skill set. And I teach all that, but I don't teach it kind of like online. I mean, I used to have a couple hundred people show up, and I would teach some of this. And it was interesting because it was popular for a while, and then people kind of lose interest in it again until something weird happens, till the LOMs show up again. So,
Some of these things that people have talked about with me, I don't know how to determine exactly what some of these things are. Some things people say they have like these in their dreams. There are beings or entities that come into their dreams, and
yeah.
sometimes they have these things that happen in real life, and they claim that they're like an interdimensional type of a thing. Have you ever dealt with anyone that's had issues with like some of these? And a lot of people think they're demonic, which again, that's just throwing more of a religious vibe to this whole thing. But have you ever had anyone that's had any sort of issues with like some of these negative type of beings attachments?
Yes. It's I have a protocol when I work on people. It's about 1,000 questions, but the initial part is to get rid of all this, to get rid of any interactions or connections to that which is non-physical. And so even like White Eagle and the other people, they're non-physical beings, but it doesn't mean they don't have consciousness, and it doesn't mean they're not interactive. So, like in dream states, the majority of humans go to what we call lower fourth astral. In other words, you can start mapping where these things are. It became evident to me in junior high. Somebody was spaced out, we call it, and I go, "What are you doing?" I kept poking them, and finally they go, "Oh, I was somewhere else." And I go, "I know that you were daydreaming. You were somewhere else." And I want to know where that was, because maybe I want to go look there too. And of course, that gets into the work of Tesla and Einstein and a whole bunch of people that highly creative that went and gathered information and brought it back in more or less a dream state. So, yes, I've worked on people. A classic one, there was a newspaper called Native American Times. And the lady up there, most people are skeptics of this stuff. And she had a man working for her, I'm sorry. And he wasn't quite right in the head. I guess that'd be a proper diagnosis. And excuse me. And she asked me if I could do anything. So I asked him permission. And so I tend to work with my eyes closed because I'm dealing with zero reality, the reality of dream states and stuff. And when I opened my eyes, I don't know who was sitting in front of me, but it wasn't the person that I started when I closed my eyes. And it totally shocked her and 2 or 3 other people that were sitting in the room. He physically looked different. And so we don't recognize the extent to which we can be modified or transformed, by our thoughts. But you think about it, somebody makes an angry face, they've transformed their countenance. But what if somebody or something else did that? And So I come across it all the time. It's people that have been abused, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. All of them tend to have additional consciousnesses that they are involved with. And unfortunately, in what they call New Age, people are channels. They don't have a freaking clue who or what they're channeling. If you listen to it or applied symbolic logic to the language that comes out of all these people, it just makes no sense for the most part. And of course, if it did, we call it revelation and call you a prophet and a dozen other things. So, so people do have these things, and uh, I'd have to get into specific cases, but it's phenomenal what goes on. I'll give you another example. They brought a girl to me. Um, she was intent on killing herself. And when I started working on her, it's like there's nobody home. The person in front of me, the excuse me, the activating consciousness or operating consciousness, kind of like CPU, was not, we would say, necessarily human, or if they were, not in any kind of benign form. And I was able to, just like de-ghost in the house, de-ghost a person, kick it out. I learned how to do that. I have enough energy to do that, to override. And so the outcome of that is through the 2 hours while we were working, she kept insisting that she was going to kill herself before she turned 16. And that was only 5 or 6 months away. And that woman is married now. She has a couple of children. And she has no knowledge of that 2 or 3 years of being a drug addict and prostitute and all these other things. Now, that kind of behavior tends to attract demons and entities and negative experiences and negative energies. How's that? Negative things. And most people, when they go to sleep at night, they touch upon that world. But if you have compromised your energy field or your consciousness through drugs, alcohol, high fevers, all kinds of things, so even the place you live, there are scary places to live. I've lived in some of them. So anyway, that's an idea that this person wasn't wanting to commit suicide. That which was in her wanted to. And so this is where I've gotten in trouble with psychiatrists, that all schizophrenia involves another consciousness other than a human consciousness.
I've always wondered if people that have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I've talked with people before that they say they hear these things talking to them in their heads. Well, people,
Oh, yeah.
And people call themselves targeted individuals. They hear a lot of voices. They hear negative things being said to them all the time, this and that. And I was like, sometimes I do wonder if it's not like some sort of a mental illness like schizophrenia, but then I've wondered if it's not something else in general that really is there. And we dope these people up with whatever medications we can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really fixing the issue, because maybe the things that they're actually hearing are some of these other entities, these other consciousness that are inside that they're hearing and communicating with. Maybe some people are just more in tune to that than others.
Yes. And that, people say, how do you do this? Well, be a sensitive, right? And then let's say you're extremely sensitive. We'd call you intuitive. We'd also probably call you psychotic. It's like
I've been called a psycho a few times.
Yeah, people don't want to know that you hear voices. Ask any child under 6 years old, do you have any imaginary friends? Every one of them will say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we get into a very interesting thing. It's like you only know yourself as the voice in your head. Okay. Now, where is that voice? where are the thoughts originating that promote that voice that appears in your head. And then what if there's two? What if there's more than two? And so our society, a lot of them around the world, demonize these people that hear voices. We all hear voices. We all hear our own voice, and a lot of times hear other ones. We just don't practice the process of trying to determine whether they're benign or not. And so, in my language, if you can't calibrate the consciousness of that which you're dealing with, you don't need to deal with it. And Dr. David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force. And 200 on a 1 to 1,000 scale that he has in that book represents a dividing line between that which is negative and that which is positive in the human experience. And guilt, anger, shame, negative emotions, negative thoughts, negative connections, negative interactions, negative practices, all of those derail you being yourself in this world. And, people say, what do I teach? I teach that if you're born in this world, I'm all for it. I think you should be 100% yourself. I think you should have a big energy field and all the energy you need to accomplish whatever it is in your life you want to accomplish. So that's my, what do they call it? Mission statement. I love that word. So that's what we're dealing with.
Do you think you've mentioned them earlier? You mentioned like angelic stuff. I've had people say that they've heard demonic stuff. I've heard people say they've heard good things, positive things. I think those are angels. And I've said this before, and this is not me just being like leery or whatever, but again, maybe I'm just paranoid. I don't know. I feel like if something's talking to me and it's a negative thing, it's not going to tell me that it's negative. So if something's in there, oh, I'm the archangel, just whatever, and I'm hearing it in my head and it's trying to tell me to do these things and it's what's best for me and this and that, how does someone know if something's good or bad?
Well, the easiest thing is if they're telling you to do anything.
Right.
Knowledge can come to you like, oh, I want to go to this restaurant or I want to go down this street. But as soon as somebody is what we call actively trying to program you or direct you in a course of action, that's when you should take a deep breath and go, where's this coming from? It's a legitimate question. And then what is it coming from? And then why the hell am I hearing it other than in my own voice? Because there's a tonal quality to that which is not your voice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a client up in Colorado. For 20 years, she's had what's called electronic voices. And she's been a client for about 5 years. And she calls me and she's having trouble because she's hearing everything in the world coming through this thing, and they're all talking to her, by the way. And so I can get it shut down for days and sometimes weeks at a time. And, it gets into, you can go at it from government secret programmings. You can come at it from psychic disturbances, from where she's living, from people around you. It's sort of infinite, our interactions. But if you have a big energy field, you're generally not bothered. So that's the primary defense. And you can learn through breathing exercises, pranayama yoga, kundalini yoga, some of those martial arts and super secret martial arts. You can learn to literally have a protective field as opposed to just having a field of consciousness. There's no limit on consciousness. There's no event horizon. So as you go out in the world, like when you're asleep, there's no limit of where you can go or what you can see or who you can interact with. And of course, science comes along and calls it remote viewing. And before that, they called it lucid dreaming. And before that, they called it astral travel or astral projection. Before that, see if you do the science or the history of it and keep going back, it's like basically you're going to end up with a Doctor Strange movie.
Right. Yeah.
So we would take and practice things that increased our energy field and protected our own consciousness. Now, that's not the same thing as blocking out things we don't want to hear. Okay. The difference is we want to block out that which I don't, that which is inimical or negative to my existence as a human. It's kind of like don't eat bad food, don't eat poison, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to ignore it, by the way. So you would require yourself to pursue a course of study that basically requires you to go out and look around and find out this stuff, and or find a mentor or a teacher or a sensei, whatever you want to call it. But I can guarantee you're not going to find them in a college course. You're not going to find them in a high school. It's at least I've never seen it or heard of it. That's what I said about like when I was picking up knowledge from these mentors, Native American mentors. That was knowledge that is not conveyed through our normal senses. And that gets into an interesting thing because I've been wanting to do a lecture on human being and being human. And there's a distinct difference because average human is only human about 12 hours a day. When you're sleeping, you are absent the body and therefore not a human being. You're a being, but you're not a human being. And this gets off into this whole conversation we've been having. If I'm absent the body, then what the heck am I? And then, of course, here we go. Now, where am I? I'm not in my body. We know that. Everybody that sleeps at some point, comes back into their body or comes out of a dream state. They may come into this dream state, but for the most part, they're somewhere else. We're right back to when I was in 8th grade. Where were you? I've actually tried to develop developed a GPS system to figure out where people are, lower astral, higher astral, off in different domains, dimensions. There's about 400 of them that Siri Paul Twitchell wrote about or identified in a book called The Tiger's Fang. I think I read that in like 71 or something, 1971. So you see there's like 50 years of knowledge or certainly gathering up a bunch of information. Enough to warp me, I guess, to be different than everybody else that deals with this. And by virtue of having dealt with it with thousands of clients is that I'm able to help other people that are having troubles that result from them interacting in a world that they are unqualified or unknowing of, kind of like the rules and how it works and how to protect themselves. So,
Well, we've been going on for close to an hour. I try and keep these up for about an hour. So I was going to ask you if you had anyone out there that was listening that wanted to reach out to you. Where is a good place for them to go?
I'm a strange individual that way. My email is Energy Doktor, EnergyDoktor, and at me.com. Energy Doktor with a K at me.com. My phone number is area code 202-904-9560. And I'm on Facebook and YouTube and Messenger and all those other things. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. It just may take me a little bit to get back to you, depending on how many calls I'm dealing with and stuff. I do work on people. That's my primary occupation. I deal mostly in the areas of like trying to be healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychically, psychologically, etherically, astrally, and causal. And what those 9 or 10 things do is basically try to cover everything that could possibly go on with a human being. And the work I do is to try to straighten anything out and try to eliminate whatever that a person is dealing with. So energydoktor@me.com, that's my phone number. They're welcome to contact me. And the reason for that I put it all out there is I learn from everybody I talk to and everybody I work on. And so I'm in a continuous education mode. So I appreciate when people want to talk about what's going on with them, because I learn something and I learn new techniques and develop new abilities. And I like that. It's a way to go through life. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, if anyone out there listening is interested in talking with Randy, make sure to check out the show notes for that information. But Randy, it has been a pleasure speaking with you tonight.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you because these are subject areas that, our society wants you to go get a college education, and, your conversations and now mine are meant to give you an education about yourself. And that's the way it works. So I appreciate you. Appreciate being able to have the conversations.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you being here. You have a good night.
Okay, you too. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Rick.
If you'd like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias. And just remember, truth comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay the price?
I heard a story late last night about something lurking along the wood line. Huge footprints, strange lights in the sky. They claim it's nothing, but I know they lie. It's easier to laugh in my face, but something about this makes me say, what if it's real? What if they knew? What if the answers are coming from you? Spinning stories, wasting my time, hearing voices, is it all in their minds? They can call me crazy, but I just want some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They see a dog man walking, or maybe a mothman flies above the buried giants, hidden beneath the lies. They say it's just stories, it's all make-believe. Fairy tales for the things we can't perceive. They want to keep us blinded, they want to break our will. But I'm not buying it, I'm not swallowing another pill. Force-fed poison, the lies we're made to believe. What if the truth could set us free? Alien signals traveling through time, secret space programs erasing their minds. They call them crazy, but I just need some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They laugh, they lie, we all could die, but the signs are there if you open your eyes. Aliens, cryptids, demons, ghosts, the Nephilim too. What if it's me? Or what if it's real? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil Tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. It's all in our heads, it's all in our minds. These voices can't be silenced, the truth must rise. Tinfoil Tales, it's pulling me through. What if it's real? What if it's true?